Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host,
Russell Brooks. Tonight's show will focus on Fairfax County's public libraries. Our county has some very impressive libraries, and they are very valued by its clientele. At the same time, there are concerns that our libraries are not remaining competitive with the libraries in nearby jurisdictions. Is this a valid concern? Joining me tonight to delve into that question is tonight's guest, the director of the Fairfax County Public Library, Eric Carzon. Eric, welcome to Inside Scoop.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Thank you. First, our audience should know that I serve on the Board of Trustees for the Fairfax County Public Library. It is an unpaid position, and there should be no conflict of interest to prevent this from being an unbiased interview. Let's begin. Eric, you have over 20 years of experience in library management, including service as a regional manager for the Montgomery Public Libraries. What brought you to this particular profession?
So I started out, I'm a region baby. I was born in Maryland, grew up in Maryland. So I've been in the region my whole life. I went to the University of Maryland at College Park. And when I was there, I actually studied government politics and public management. So I got a master's degree in public management in the 90s coming out of the University of Maryland. And my very first job was actually as a budget analyst for Montgomery County government. It so happened actually that I drew the library's portfolio. So I was the budget analyst for the Montgomery County Public Libraries, doing at the time they needed a new system for checking out their books. So I helped them get started on that project, among other things. I would say I was sort of predisposed to libraries, however, even though I was a budget analyst. In high school, I was the debate team captain. In high school and college, I was editor of the literary magazines. So I sort of had an undercurrent of library use all throughout my life. In debate, I actually started in debate when I was in junior high in a camp. So I sort of got my first exposure to libraries, aside from sort of, story time and the typical stuff that young kids use it for. And my mom's a big reader. So, reading has always been there for me. As I advanced in my career in the county, I specialized in information technology. I even ran a county IT project for a couple of years at one point. But the natural progression for budget analysts is actually to join a department and become their administrative services coordinator. Mm-hmm. So that was a promotion for me, and one came open at Montgomery County Public Libraries. So I joined Montgomery County Public Libraries as their business manager, is what they call it in the state of Maryland. But basically, it's their procurement, budget, finance guy. Now, Montgomery County Public Libraries was very thin-staffed at the time. So I got to, because they needed it and I had an interest, I got to involve myself a lot in operational projects that normally your number cruncher wouldn't get involved in. But because I had project management experience from my IT side, I ended up getting very involved in the setup of libraries, setting up the technology, picking it, deciding how to use it, that kind of thing. So I eventually built up enough skill there that when I decided to sort of go all in and become a librarian and sort of advance in the profession, I had the operational skill there, and that's sort of how I ended up in library management, because I was already a manager as the budget guy. So I moved over into branch management and eventually into regional management, and here I am.
Okay. Now, based on that experience, what should someone know before deciding on this particular career?
I think, the key thing about librarianship, which, people may or may not realize when they think about it, because people have a lot of stereotypical images in their mind about what a library is or what a public library is. From my perspective, what I've experienced is that libraries is first and foremost a people business. We're in the business of helping people find information, and for a great variety of purposes. Sometimes for pure pleasure. A big thing we do is helping young children get the basic skills, the early skills, pre-reading skills, and helping their parents figure out, how do I daily help my child? How do I read to my child intentionally? So there's all sorts of things throughout people's lives that we help connect people with information. Whether for pleasure or for their needs for education and learning, but it's people. So that is the most important thing. The work requires a lot of compassion, some wisdom, patience, and some courage. There's a lot of different things that happen in a library. It's really great work. And of course, there's some quiet reading moments. But there's a lot going on, and you've got to be up for anything. It's an interesting place because, a library is very stable. You come, it's the same layout, everything is where it is. So from that perspective, it's sameness and comfort, but I can definitely tell you that it's a different day every day for your employees. I mean, different people come in with different needs, they present in different ways. So you've always got to be ready for action in the library context. I'd like to say we see people at their very best, but we also see people at their very worst in the public library. So, we're an open public space, and we want everybody to come in and feel welcome. But sometimes people come in and they've got their own problems going on, and they don't behave as you would want in a public space, and you have to deal with that.
Sure.
So there is an element of courage and fortitude that you've got to have as a library person, because you're going to end up dealing with that. And you want to be able to deal with it fairly, and deal with it even-keeled and neutral, trying to analyze the situation and handle it in the best way possible. But you have to balance what are my other customers' needs and what is being presented to me. So that's an element of librarianship.
Sure.
I think it's best to be open-minded. We try to be as neutral as possible and as open to as many people and the diversity of the community, so that we are meeting as many needs as we can meet with the resources that we have. And so as a professional in that workspace, you've got to have that mindset. So definitely a respect for diversity, a desire to include people, and a desire to have equal outcomes is strongly desirable if you want to work in the library field. And that's not just a local ethic, that is the national ethic of librarians across the country.
Having said that, what were your goals for the Fairfax County Public Library?
I'd like us to, first of all, it's a great library system to start with. There's a lot of material. We've been building on years and years of the community and the staff and the volunteers and the leadership. So my chief goal is to keep going, keep building on success and advancing. I think we are in a very turbulent period in the country, economically, in terms of politics and everything going on, and a lot, so we need to be able to keep up. Artificial intelligence is on everybody's minds, and what is it going to mean? Is this going to be the same kind of sea change that computer technology was, or the internet was, or that electricity was when it, electric lights and all? I mean, there's been big changes, and this appears to potentially be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So that, that among other things, medicine and health, that is also a hugely changing field. And then just the whole political situation in our country and the changes going on with that. Those are all challenges that we need to navigate. I think particularly in technology and workforce development are two areas that I'd like to see us do more. Like, we do some great things, but what I'm working on with the staff and our volunteers and partners is trying to sort of take it to another level and be more consistent. So that's a goal for the system. I'd like us to have more consistent collection resources. I liken libraries to a grocery store. And so, grocery stores, a good grocery store has fresh food, fresh produce, fresh meat, fresh vegetables. You need that for a balanced diet, right? They also have cans, right? And TV dinners and junk food. They have all of that, right? But if you walked into a library and you saw, or if you walked into a grocery store and you saw no fresh food, you'd be like, okay, I'm in a 7-Eleven. Well, to me, a library is the same thing, right? We need fresh knowledge, right? You have to have fresh ideas, fresh authors' new works. Now, on top of that, we have a lot of cans. We have a lot of good, stable stuff, but that also goes bad. It doesn't last, it has to be replaced. So, it is a challenge for us at our current levels to get fresh information at the rate that our public wants to consume it at. And as a result, people wait a long time for items, and we don't have as many items as we would like to, especially as knowledge is diversifying. So I think that, that is a challenge.
You are also working on partnerships with institutions such as WETA. Can you tell me What are the objectives of those partnerships and how are they going?
I think we in the library world, we depend very much on partnerships. And it's a two-way benefit. So we're both parties are trying to leverage each other. We bring, we have spaces, we have staff resources, we have audience. So that is a benefit to some of our partners. And our partners have audiences that we want to reach, and they have expertise that we don't have ourselves that we need, and they have services that they can offer. So a lot of our partners, we're partners because we see customers that come in and they have those needs, and we can get them some books and information sources, but if you come in and you really don't know how to do a resume, or you haven't been in the job market for 20 years, we're going to help you in libraries. But then we also have partners like Family Services and some of the nonprofits that we say, you can go to this nonprofit, and we're going to have some of their programs in our libraries so that you get a taste of that, and then knowledge about that partner, so that you can go and get that deeper level of service and knowledge. So that's one, we have very frequently we're doing that. We're partnering with other government agencies or other nonprofits. And at the libraries, you'll get a taste of it or a version or some sort of sections of it. And then that helps people be exposed to, when I have this need, I know I can go to this other organization now. And then others are sort of like force magnifiers, like WETA, for instance. So they've got free video content, which we don't have anymore in Fairfax County Public Libraries. We had to get rid of that product because they were putting videos that cost too much, so we couldn't afford it anymore. So right around that time, WTA was rebranding and relaunching its app, WTA Plus, for their free video content. And so it was a very logical partnership. Our part of the partnership is looking at their free content and recommending library books that match the free content. And so we've had a couple launch programs already in December and November, and we're hoping to keep that going through updating some of the content recommendations we're making, and then eventually maybe some other programs.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. We're going to have to pause our conversation for a short break, but please stay with us when we continue with our conversation with Eric Carzon when we return with more of our program on Inside Scoop.
So, I just moved in with his family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
So how was work?
It was 1,300 hours. My math class from 302 was in the trenches. Davy Roth had it the worst. Fractions were coming at him left and right. He just didn't get the damn things. 2 days ago, I tried to teach him what 1/4 of 1/2 was using different sizes of blocks. Yesterday, I tried again by dividing up pizza. Both missions failed.
Oh, no.
But today, I was ready. I created a combat math game where the only way to beat the enemy is to out-fraction them. Davy conquered every last denominator. My game was so successful, the principal is deploying it to math squadrons all over the school. Anywho, how was your day?
Oh, today my boss treated the office to salad wraps.
Salad wraps.
No.
150 over 90.
180 over 111.
160 over 110. I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from invisible or silent. If you've come off your treatment plan, get back on it, or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
I'm the host, Russell Brooks, joined by my guest, Eric Carzon. Director of the Fairfax County Public Library. Let's continue. Are there any particular attributes of the Fairfax County reading public?
Yeah, there are a few. I would say first and foremost is a very diverse community. We're in a very diverse region, and Fairfax County is one of the most diverse regions in the entire country. So we have people from all over the world. We have people whose first and second languages, well, first of all, we have a lot of people who have first and second languages, and we have a lot of people whose first and second languages were not English. We'll, of course, also have a tremendous amount of people who are very good at English, and you've got a diversity of people in terms of their interest in what they want to read. We've got a diversity of people in their ages and their abilities and their the kind of genres that they want to consume. I would say we have a very engaged readership. The circulation numbers for our materials are very high. Despite our limited collection resources, they are very competitive with Montgomery and Baltimore and other library jurisdictions in the region. So they're very interested in reading, and they check out a lot of material, both electronically and physically. They are very engaged. There's a lot of people coming in. We have over 3.2 million people visiting the library each year. It's not an exact analog, but that's a high level of activity. Okay. It's probably in the top quartile of the country in terms of the number of people coming through.
Of the entire country.
Yeah. And that was true of Montgomery County as well. Like, people are heavy library users in the region among all the jurisdictions. And then they're also, they attend a lot of programs. We put over 17,000 programs last year. We had an attendance of 260,000. And we have a very diverse amount of programming. So you might have some that are intentionally small. So only 5 or 10 people might come to certain programs by design. And then you got story times, which could have anywhere from like 15 kids to like 100. As many can fit in the room, kind of deal. And that's very typical of public libraries.
So let's go into that a little further. As you just described, there's more than just reading that takes place in the library. So give me a sense of what is the range of activities that take place in the Fairfax County Public Libraries.
Sure. So aside from reading, which is very strong, definitely program attendance. And like story time is our big thing, because it's one of the things that we specially train to do. And that's why you have librarians, especially children's librarians, and they're specially trained. So story time is more than entertainment. Like, it's very intentional in terms of the skills that we impart to the caregivers who are present, and the specific way in which story time is conducted in order to
And what is the age range for story time?
0 to 5 and beyond. People of all ages, well, not all ages, but children up to, to the time they lose interest come to story time. But, it's especially impactful for 0 to 5.
Right.
You can bring your baby to a story time, and they're usually advertised that way, so they'll, some might say family and be generic. Others would be like, this is a baby story time. Like, the majority of the people in this audience are going to be, babies or toddlers. So there's some descriptions usually around story time and what kind of story time it is. But that's a big activity. But then there's all sorts of other programs that are going on. We've got a lot of English learning clubs that practice English. You've got we call them fix-it clinics, where we, a couple times a year we assemble, we use some funds, donated funds, raised funds to pay some vendors, and then we also add staff expertise. And then the public, we have a few branches where you've got some do-it-yourself stuff in there. Pohick Library, for instance, has a whole do-it-yourself room called POD, Pohick Do-It-Yourself. So we have that kind of activity going on in some of our programs. We've got lectures, your traditional author lectures, got a lot of those going on. And probably many other program types I'm forgetting, but there's a lot of programming attendance that goes on. Another very important thing is that we are a gathering place, and people use all of our spaces. If you've been on Tyson's Corner Library on a Saturday or a Sunday, you'll see every seat is filled. So people just use the tables and chairs just to, come, sit, read. meet somebody, tutor. You know, there's a lot of tutoring going on at branches. If you go in at almost any branch, you will invariably see somebody working with somebody else, teaching them math or helping them with their homework. Sometimes that'll be staff, sometimes it's volunteers. You know, people, you know, from all sorts of different combinations. You know, it might be a nonprofit, or just, you know, relatives or mother and child or whatever. Just a variety of people just meeting there and using the open space. We also, in many of our branches, have study rooms that can be booked. And so you see a lot of that, you know, group study or just individual study, or I've got a Skype interview and I need a quiet place. So all of that is very heavily used. In fact, when we do our capital program as we build new branches, unless it's physically impossible, we are building those spaces into libraries to increase that, because it's been such a hot demand. That's a trend nationwide for public libraries. And then there's the public meeting room. And in Fairfax, it's free to nonprofits. So we find that very frequently used. We even have some folks that use the grounds, food distribution, things like that. So there's an application process for that, for folks to use the outside of the library on occasion. So as a gathering place, that is a tremendously heavy use of libraries. And then we have the whole electronic. Aside from e-books and e-audiobooks, we have a whole string of databases. And some of those are like encyclopedias, some of them are like indexes, and some of them are actually like literally online classes. We have LinkedIn Learning. You can take a variety of online classes in customer service and technology, a variety of topics, and we have a few other products like that, where if you needed to study for a specific test, we have some products for specific tests like the SAT or the nursing exam. So that is an increasing component of what public libraries offer.
Sure. Now, February is Black History Month. What does the Fairfax County Public Libraries have planned for Black History Month?
Got a great series of activities. It also happens to be America's 250th birthday. So we're celebrating that throughout the year as well. And so February is Black history in the context of America's 250th anniversary, and so the contribution of Black Americans to America's history. So that is the theme, and there's several different programs. A couple I could highlight if I can find my notes. Oh, good, it is here. February 21st at the Alden Theater in McLean. We are co-sponsoring with the McLean Community Center S.A. Cosby. He's a famous author, award-winning author. A couple of his books, King of Ashes, All the Sinners Bleed, and Blacktop Wasteland. So he's going to talk about how his growing up in southeastern Virginia influenced he writes crime novels. So he's going to talk about that on February 21st. Another one is on February 7th at the Martha Washington Library. We're going to have an interesting talk by a Dr. Sherry Williams, and she's going to talk about how Black Twitter changed television. Very interesting. So she's it influenced. There was a lot of digital activism on Twitter by Black Americans, and it changed how television is watched, developed, and produced. So I look forward to that. It's going to be a very interesting discussion. So there's a full listing of this on our webpage. I actually have the site here. It's bit.ly/FCPL_BHM. Or just go to our website, and there'll be like either a hero spot for it down in the page, or if you just go to programs and search for Black History, you'll find it one way or the other.
Okay. Now, as you well know, there is a movement afoot in the country that really disparages DEI. And so I have to ask why the Fairfax County Public Library believes that Black history is still worth celebrating.
Of course. And we stand strongly with Fairfax County as a whole, especially the government, but I think the majority of the community here is with the One Fairfax policy, and in general with the concept that we want to recognize the diversity in our community. We want to include everybody in the community as much as possible. And we want, actually, the outcome is that fair for everybody. And that's a tall order. I mean, it's going to take many, many, many years to do that in our country because of our history. And Black history in particular is essential to understanding American history and world history. And so both because of One Fairfax and just because librarianship, we are purveyors of knowledge, and this is a very vital knowledge. And part of how we purvey knowledge is through our programming. So we have diverse programming on a number of topics, Black history being one of them, because it's essential to history itself.
Mm-hmm. And we'll be celebrating Women's History Month next month.
Of course. We definitely have some programs. I'll highlight one for you coming up, if I can find it here. It is here somewhere. It's on the other side of this piece of paper. Okay, sorry. I wanted to highlight it because it's kind of cool. So on Sunday, March 22nd at the Centerville Library, we are having a conversation with the former Board of Supervisors chair and the current chair of the Fairfax County Electoral Board, Kate Hanley. Yeah. So she's going to talk about her life and leadership and her place in women's history. Mm-hmm. And there'll be several other programs, I'm sure.
Okay. Now you spoke about the author who will be speaking for Black History Month. You oftentimes have authors of well-known books come and speak at the various libraries. Tell me a little bit more about that.
It's definitely part of what we do, and it's very enabled by the work that's done by our volunteers, particularly two sets of volunteers. So we have the Friends of the Library volunteers, and we have the Fairfax Library Foundation. So both of these sets of organizations, the Fairfax Library Foundation is one organization. The Friends of the Library, there is actually 23 of them in Fairfax County, associated with 22 of the branches, and one branch actually has two. They have one for the Virginia Room and one for the City of Fairfax Regional Library. So the Friends organizations, people donate books to the library branches. The Friends organizations take all those donations, they organize them, process them, and sell them in book sales. And so in any given week in Fairfax County, there's probably a book sale going on. I couldn't say every single week, but it's almost every single week. Like, it is a very prevalent activity. They have them probably at least twice a year. Some branches do it 4 times a year. One branch divides them by, like, there's a children's sale one month and an adult sale the next month, and so it's a very. There are hundreds of Friends of the Library volunteers. They expended over 37,000 volunteer hours last year doing this for us. And so they support all these author programs, because you got to pay the authors to come, and we don't have much in the county budget for it. So it's the volunteers that pay for that.
Very impressive. It's time for another short break, so please stay tuned as we continue our conversation with Eric Carzon when we return with a bit more Inside Scoop.
Window. Correction, dude. You broke. I just threw the ball.
This is really bad. What are we gonna do?
We? Go to the door, ask for the ball back.
Are you serious?
It's my ball, Myrtleback.
You're so dead.
I'd run away.
Yeah, to Uruguay.
Kiss your life goodbye. Sorry.
Let's go.
Dad.
See you, dude. See ya. Remember me and your well.
Nice one. Some friends you are.
Hi. Tell him it was an accident. And we can fix the window. Come on. I'll come with you.
Loyalty. Pass it on.
You go first.
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
There's more than just books at the library.
There's more than just books at the library.
Excuse me.
There's more than just books at the library.
Il y a plus que de livres à la bibliothèque.
Hello. You have a lot of great books here today. You know there's more than just books at the library.
I know.
There's more than just books at the library.
to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
I'm Russell Brooks, joined by tonight's guest, Eric Carzon, director of the Fairfax County Public Library. You mentioned that the United States will celebrate its 250th anniversary this year. So provide me a little bit more detail on what's being planned to mark this milestone.
Okay, great. Yeah, we definitely, one of our staff members was on the county's commission for this. So we are rolling out a series of programs in every branch. Some of them are still sort of finalizing the details, so I don't think there's like an exact list of all the programs yet. But if you go onto our website, there's definitely an article pointing to America's 250, and I think it was also in the latest newsletter. Or at least the Black History Month version of it was in the latest newsletter, and then so each month as we roll out a different theme, we'll probably highlight that theme in our newsletter, which you definitely should get. If you've got an email address, make sure that Fairfax County Public Library knows what it is. Staff can help you, or you can just go and update your profile, but you can get a newsletter sent if you have an email address with us, and we do one every month, and it sort of highlights the sort of big programs that are going on, talks about collection and all that.
So you can request a newsletter at your local branch?
As long as you have an email address, you'll get it whether you want it or not. We've got a great open rate, so it's a lot of good content, but you've got to have, you've got to have an email address in there. That's the important part.
Okay.
Anyway, so every month we're having a different theme. And different branches have taken different months and said, okay, we'll do, so there's like approximately 3 branches per theme. I'm like, okay, we're going to do America's 250 around that. So in some cases, we're going to like rebrand a thing we're already doing. Like, for instance, Black History Month, some of those programs are, we're going to do a program of that nature anyway, but we're sort of doing it with the twist of America's 250. Other programs will be pure, like America 250. We would have done that particular topic, except for this is the theme this year. And to give you an example of one of the themes, the May theme, there it is going to be about immigrant journeys. So that's like one example.
Sounds kind of timely.
Yeah. So we'll be doing some programming surrounding that. I think one of our writing contests will have an America 250 theme. I think we traditionally do it over the summer for youth, and so that'll have a theme. I don't have it memorized, but it'll be on the website. But yeah, so we're definitely doing a lot of America 250 programming.
Were you also showing the new or recent Ken Burns
this was sort of a precursor. We did that in November, but yeah, I don't know if that, some of the WIDA content's a little complex, and then it'll be on the free side for the first month, and then it transfers over, and you have to be a member to digest it afterwards. So Ken Burns might have fallen into that category, but since he premiered it in November, when we launched our WETA partnership, we had a program that sort of gave a teaser of the Ken Burns and then said, hey, it's free for the next month, go watch it on WETA, and then we recommended some books that were related to it.
Okay, great. Now, you mentioned the invaluable contributions by the Friends and the foundation that helps the library, but I understand that the library is still under financial pressure. And so I have to ask, what must be done to ensure that it properly remains competitive with the very, very good libraries in neighboring jurisdictions?
Yeah. I think our chief issue right now is the collection budget. And we get very good support from the county. The Board of Supervisors, recognizes the importance of library services, and they've supported. We have good staffing, we have good facilities. They're investing in the facilities. We have a good capital program. At some point in the past, there were budget crises, and they reduced the collection budget. So the current collection budget is $3.1 million. That's less than half of what it was in Fairfax County 20 years ago. There was a point in time where the collection budget was more like $6 million. So $3 million is far too low. That's less than $3 per resident per year for new books. In comparison, we looked around the country, we presented this, so it's sort of known, but if you look at Montgomery County, for instance, their budget last year was $8 million, and they have 1.1 million residents, so they have less residents. Baltimore County's budget has been approximately $7 million for many years, and they have 900,000 residents, probably a little less than 900,000 residents. So if you look at per resident per year dollar investment for new books, Most of the jurisdictions we looked at are more like $6, $7, $8, $9 a year. If you look out into Multnomah in Oregon, the Ohio libraries, Seattle Library, those are some of the sort of nationally recognized top tier libraries. We're not spending anywhere near what they're spending per resident per year for the library collection. So that puts us at a competitive disadvantage in the region. With what we have, we do well and people are reading it, but it's not as broad as it should be, and people are waiting longer for it than they should. Something like artificial intelligence, the world of artificial intelligence in 3 months or 6 months moves radically.
Sure.
We don't have current content fast enough, and if you have to wait 3 months to get it, the thing that you're reading might have passed on entirely by the time you're reading it. So we need to have a higher resource base. We're working with the county on that. But I think in general, for anything, but if residents care about this, they need to let their elected officials know. With grace and respectfully. I mean, the elected officials are excellent, they're doing a good job, but they have a lot of pressures from a lot of different services. And it matters that people tell them they care, that they're watching, that they want an appropriate level of resources. If I told the school community that they only had half a textbook budget, I can assure you there would be riots at the school board, right?
Probably so.
So we're in that situation, and I'm not calling for anything like that, but I think people need to let people know, like, hey, that's not okay, because as a parent, I know PTAs are watching and they are very observant and vocal to their elected officials about school services, and as a consequence, school services are funded very effectively, and we get a lot of service out of that.
Sure.
So that would be helpful to us and to people who are interested in their library services, to watch for that and to speak up and say, hey, I had to wait 3 months for this book. I have to wait 3 months all the time for these books. Like, I don't want to wait 3 months. I want to wait 2 weeks or 4 weeks.
And I have to imagine that, like the schools, the libraries play a role in attracting new residents to the county in terms of making it attractive to businesses that may be thinking about investing here, for those who live here, in order to improve their skills, in order to maybe get a job or move up in a job. The education, the skills that they can acquire at these libraries play a considerable role for any of those categories.
Definitely.
Okay. So, for those who are interested in helping out in that respect, I guess you would suggest that they write their supervisor or show up at the Board of Supervisors meetings and make their interest known.
Yes, definitely. Several legislators have commented over the years that the strongest possible signal is a handwritten note. Still, it's still the old-fashioned way, but email or typewritten notes or phone calls are also effective.
Now, we're spending a lot of time talking about books for obvious reasons, but how is the library doing with regard to its technological resources? For instance, e-books and things of that nature. We offer as best as we can. I think we have a very strong ebook readership. I think we broached 4 million this year, or will broach 4 million this year, and we're very close to it last year, which is a lot. It's a lot of ebook readership. I think it actually could be way more if we could spend more than $1 million on ebooks. Mm-hmm. In Montgomery County, they were spending approximately $4 million minimum. So we have a long way to go. And there are certain products, if we had, it'd have to be much larger. Like if we had a $7 million consistent collection budget, we might be able to afford the products that are out there that there's no wait for. So, you see a material and you can check it out instantly, no matter how many people in the county are interested. Those products, however, charge by the circulation. So you have to have a large budget in order to use it because it's a little risky, right? Sure. You could end up spending $2 or $3 million just for that product, just for those ebooks. But the benefit of it is you get a wide variety of content in a wide variety of genres instantly. One of those products offers
music, e-books, e-audiobooks, e-comic books, all in the same product. But it's very expensive, and we can't even offer that, and wouldn't until we get a larger, more stable collection budget. But in the meantime, the traditional one we use, Libby, there's plenty of more content that we could be providing, and we could be reducing the wait lists if we had more funds to buy more quantity of ebooks and a broader selection.
Outside of the collection budget, I know the library is also being challenged by the maintenance resources that have to be committed to keep the libraries open and to keep the libraries comfortable for its clientele, especially during the current cold snap. I know that has been particularly challenging. Is that also an area where the libraries maybe need a bit more support?
Yes, and I would like to thank our partners in this. The facilities maintenance department has a large job. They have over 200 facilities that they have to take care of. And the school system also has 200 plus facilities to take care of. So for any local government, but especially for large ones like Fairfax County, this is a complex issue. You've got hundreds of buildings. They have varying systems, but commercial systems in general are vastly more complex than your home system that you might have in your mind. So it's understandable that there end up being difficult issues. So they have been great partners and as responsive as they can be, but they have to respond not only to our 23 library facilities, but also the other 175 facilities in the county. And I'm probably lowballing that number. I don't know the exact number, but it's a lot. It's a lot of buildings. They're dealing with a lot. When things break, they try to replace them as quickly as possible. Very sorry to the Richard Byrd community. We're working on it. The boilers have to be completely replaced. So it took a while to figure out, like, okay, this is not fixable. We have to replace it. And they are actively in the process of acquiring the boilers and then installing them. We hope to get that done through the end of February. But again, these are complicated issues, and sometimes we just have to shut a facility down. We've shut down the Culmore facility to replace its entire system, all the mechanics on the roof and all of the ducts in the building. And that's why it's going to take so long. It's a very substantial project, and the library will be shut down for a year. So those are examples of two challenges that we face in the maintenance arena. But folks do the best they can, and we try to communicate as much as we can when we know it.
Well, once again, we must take a short break, and then we will conclude our final segment. We will return with Eric Carzon and more of our conversation about the public libraries on Inside Scoop.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. Already posted it.
I got a creak in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. But I was scared of very sad, no more love. All that I could do was remember you. You know I usually stay now, but if you throw me love, I'll throw it some more.
It's a big responsibility.
Oh, it's huge. I know, it's huge.
And the salary.
So my first question
Oh my
coming
God,
back
yes.
is going to be
I mean,
about
like, I was about to move in with my parents, and right before, so this saved me.
I really believe in you, you know.
Thank you. It's nice to hear that from someone.
These are cool. Did you, what did you?
to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Once again, I'm Russell Brooks, and I'm speaking with Eric Carzon, Director of the Fairfax Public Library. Eric, what will be your challenges over the next year?
Okay, so we talked a little bit about these sort of unexpected maintenance challenges, and that's been a challenge, especially we didn't talk quite about temperature fluctuations, but that is part of it, and we're working as best we can on those when they happen. On the sort of more positive side, it's a challenge, but it's a positive challenge, is that we have a lot of planned building going on. So for example, we're about to close the Kingstown Community Library on February 14th. It'll be sort of our last dance. We have a little party with the customers at the branch on that Saturday, and that'll be that library's last day of service. It will reopen in the spring as the Kingstown Regional Library. It's a brand new county facility with 4 other operations, including the supervisor's office, a police station, a museum, and a neighborhood and community services operation, all in a new building about a mile up the street. Describe
the attributes of the new building, or the new library.
Yeah, so the new library, it's going to be beautiful. Nice, sort of multi-use campus. So they'll have a parking garage. It's much larger than the Kingstown Community Library was. So there'll be a larger collection, more space for programming, the larger staff, better hours. It's going to be a regional library, so it'll be open on Sundays. So yeah, it's going to be a great improvement. And I think folks are really going to enjoy it. But a project of that nature is very complex. And we're, for instance, we still haven't calculated the exact opening date of the Kingstown Regional Library because it's a 5-operation campus, and we're affected a little bit by the weather, and they're sort of coming into their final inspections and all that jazz. So managing these complexities is very difficult. It's a challenge we love to have, though, because it means capital investment. Our libraries are being invested in and improved. We're wrapping up the planning stages of major renovation to the George Mason Library. So we don't know when construction will start, but we're getting closer to that. We're into the process now where they are forming up documents that'll be used to get permits and eventually be put out to bid to get construction contractors. So that's also a complicated process. We are in early planning stages for a new Reston Regional Library. So having several of these projects going off at the same time adds some complexity, especially when you throw in the Colmore project and having that library closed down for a year. It's difficult logistically figuring out, okay, like where do the staff go? How do we, is there anything we can do in a community while that library is closed? And so these are challenges that we face regularly, but every project's a little different, brings different conditions, brings different budgets and possibilities. Every project is unique in that regard, and so that can be challenging, both to plan for and explain to communities why their project differed from the other project, and why we were able to do an interim facility in one place and not in another, and so all of that is very challenging. But we look forward to it.
Speaking of the interim facilities, so if we use Colmore as an example, what is going to happen to serve that community while the library is being rebuilt or replaced?
Yeah. So we're basically going to try to enhance our outreach, but we don't, there's not really a facility we can just go to. It's a very tight space in there. We are working with the George Mason University has an operation there at a church that's just up the street, and we've are putting the finishing touches on basically enhancing, adding some of our staff to their programming and enhancing that and being able to offer something to the community at that site. But there's not a tremendous amount of other things that we can do. We're going to talk a little bit more with the school system to see if there's any possibilities for the elementary school over the summer to have sort of an enhanced summer programming. But we just don't know because those sites are often very heavily used, and so we're not sure if there's available space or not. But it's definitely a challenge, and constrained budgetarily. There was no plan to close a library for a year, so there's no budget for an interim library. and all the staffing resources are good, other resources are very constrained. So, there's no money to go buy a lease if you could find a place to lease, for example, or to outfit it even if you could find a place to lease. So sometimes we're not able to provide an interim facility, sometimes we are, and it's one of the challenges. I'd say a couple other challenges, and we touched upon it a little bit earlier when we were talking about the collection. Knowledge is diverse and it's changing at an increasing rate. And so it's hard to keep up. So that is a challenge, and we sort of discussed at length that the collection budget is a driving challenge in that way. Programming as well, though. So we're trying to increase our partnerships and build up our own skills as library staff so that we can do better programming and so we can pick better materials to keep up with knowledge. And so that's a challenge we love to have, but it's definitely a challenge. We talked about it a little bit before, but with the vast majority of people in our libraries, they normally have very positive experiences, but there's a small segment of folks that most of them having serious problems themselves that they're dealing with become disruptive, and that is harmful to other customers, it's harmful to staff. We have very good mechanisms for dealing with that kind of behavior, but it is a challenge. I mean, it's something that makes people tired, a little wary. Sometimes it dissuades people from coming into libraries if they fear that that's going to happen, or they've been traumatized because it happened somewhere. And so that is a challenging thing to deal with. It's difficult to deal with. It can be tiring, and then you have to sort of take care of yourself as well, and help staff take care of themselves, because especially if you experience it a lot of times as a staff member, it can be very disheartening.
Are you getting assistance from other county departments or agencies in terms of dealing with those sort of situations?
We do. There's definitely strong partnerships there. We definitely reach out. We try to get people services as best we can. Sometimes that's successful, sometimes it's not. I mean, sometimes people resist the services. But yes, we have very good partnerships with security for sort of dealing with the immediate, with the police for dealing with the immediate. We definitely are in touch with the family services and the community services board in terms of trying to get services to some of the folks that are acting out. If we have observations or say, hey, can you come and look this situation over, or give us advice on how to connect that person with services. So we do as much as we can. But it is definitely a challenge at the times, and we're definitely not alone. This is definitely an urban library problem. In fact, it's just a library problem in general, or really a societal problem. I mean, we've had a lot going on. And sort of what's going on in the country, and it's happening here too, the sort of ICE activity, and that's got people afraid, rightfully so.
Are
so
people
we have staff
afraid
and
to
customers
go to the libraries?
I would say, if you feel like you're in the ICE target zone, you're afraid to go anywhere, including libraries. Yeah, and we follow the county's trust policy, but that policy has two components. So we're you're not actively helping in any of that. However, we have to comply with the law. So if we get a lawful order, we have to comply with that.
This is a judicial order,
right? Like if somebody shows up with a subpoena, or they show up with a warrant. And then we have basically have the sort of speed dial number to the county attorney to consult with them to say, hey, somebody showed up, with a document and they're saying this, should I do that? Mm-hmm. So we have mechanisms for this, and I don't think the formal thing has happened a lot. In fact, to my knowledge, it hasn't happened at all inside a library, but definitely heard intelligence that, ICE, especially in certain communities, is all around the community. And for all we know, they might have walked through a library, just not announced themselves. Mm-hmm.
So people are not being
there, the perception
taken out of the library, but there's a possibility that they are surveying the
Could
neighborhood.
Be. Yeah, I mean, it's, as far as I know, it hasn't actually happened, but it's definitely a real fear. And given what we observed as a country, it's a well-founded fear.
Sure.
So we are rightfully nervous about it, and we'll deal with it best we can. But I definitely think that it affects people.
Yes.
Yeah.
We talked about challenges, but if you had to name maybe your 3 or so strategic goals, what would they be?
Well, one definitely is the collection budget, because it's not everything we do, but it's a big part of what we do. So I would like to get that right-sized. I would like to evolve our programming. We have great programming, and we have great partners, but it can always be better. And so we're actively at work with some of our partners in improving this. In particular, we're working with George Mason University. One of their experts has graciously agreed to teach our staff about AI. So we're going to have a couple sessions there where we're going to learn about it, and we're going to brainstorm more program ideas beyond what we already do. And then we're also looking forward to working with Family Services. They have a lot of workforce training, so we're looking to get more actively involved with them. We've been working with the county's HR department. So we've been doing more programming with them on how to apply for a county job. So I look forward to continuing that and evolving our services that we can provide in relation to workforce development.
Here you're hitting all of the various age ranges, from story time to helping people apply for jobs with the county. That's serving, I guess, maybe not every imaginable need, but quite a few of them.
Yeah, we try. We can always do better, but we're doing our best.
So how confident are you that you're going to be able to meet your goals in the next year?
I am very confident. Because we have a very strong base of staff. They're very dedicated, very knowledgeable. We have great leadership in the county. Trustees are great leadership. The county serves us very well. The departmental partners are very dedicated and knowledgeable. Our volunteers are awesome. Our public is awesome. Our customers are awesome. So we have all the tools that we need to continue to do well.
As you look back on the past year, is there one thing, or maybe there's a couple of things, that really stand out to you as your accomplishments or highlights of your tenure here?
I viewed it a privilege just to be able to be director. I mean, it's a big responsibility. I wasn't sure whether it was going to happen for me because I kind of have a standard entry into the library world. I wasn't a librarian first. And that is a typical trajectory for a lot of library directors. So I was kind of worried being an administrator first that I would never make it to this chair. So I'm very thrilled to make it there. I've had a couple of changes I've been able to make to some of the capital projects. Was able to get a makerspace into the George Mason design, so I'm very excited about that.
Okay. Well, we've had a great discussion tonight, but we are out of time. So let me thank Eric Carzon. I hope you will come back soon. And thank you, the audience. Please join us again next week for another edition of Inside Scoop. Good night.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.